You think you got a handle on who's going to win these big games this weekend? Well, I bet you don't. You better sit back, gather around, and grab a drink because you need to hear what I got to tell you before you make any rash decisions with those ducats of yours. So make sure you tune in here to the Week 4 Predictor Show. That's right, the Week 4 Predictor Show. We're about to bust it out and see exactly who's going to win these big games this weekend. Well, I'm going to tell you, last weekend we went 8-7. No fault of our own. If you took my 15 plays individually, we ended up going 8-7, just a little over 50%. We did miss the 3 parlays, and that's because who could have known that Lenore Sellers was going to get hurt? Who the heck would have known that Boston College would have laid an egg in the second half against Stanford? And Notre Dame, obviously, the missed extra point really cost us on that money line there. Other than that, we almost hit those parlays, and we're going to do a lot better job this weekend. I can promise you that. 8-7 isn't bad, but we're going to roll this thing up and make it a lot prettier this week. Let's look at some of the games I've already made some predictions on and some of the shorts that I've put out in the last couple of days. And that is going to be the first one we called the Road Warriors Special here. That's right. We got 3 teams going on the road, big games. And I think we got a real winner here with NC State plus 3.5. We got the money line on that too. And I'll tell you how we're going to parlay this in a second. We got Illinois plus 5.5 plus the money line on that. And we got Arizona State plus 2.5 at Baylor, plus the money line on this. So I'm going to take those 3 points. I'm going to take those 3.5 for NC State, 5.5 for Illinois, and the 2.5 for Arizona State. I'm going to bundle those, parlay that over here. We're going to be at 581 on that, plus 581. I'm also going to do the money line parlay on those 3 too. NC State, Illinois, and Arizona State will give us a plus 1185, 1185. That's 12 times your money almost, folks. So I really like that play. Those 2 plays, my Road Warrior Special here this week. Dogs on the road that look to be the better team than who they're playing. That's right. I really like that pick. All right. The next pick I got was a 3-leg parlay. I'm going to take Tennessee in the 23.5 in the first half. I'm going to give those points to UAB. This is going to be a pretty upset team about the way they finished that game last week, and I think they're going to put a whooping on. And remember, they scored 20-some points against Georgia's defense in the first half. I think they're going to be able to win by more than 23.5 against UAB. All right, I like Tulane plus 3.5 in the first quarter against Ole Miss. That's right, plus 3.5 in the first quarter. Jake Ratliff and the boys are going to be heading out there. And I also like to finish this parlay with Nebraska. That's right, a big game this weekend. I'm going to take Nebraska into 2.5 here over Michigan. I'm going to parlay this up. This is going to give me a plus 602 on this right here. And that's a really strong 3-leg parlay, I think. 3 winners right there. Now let's move over to my 4-leg banger right here. My 4 banger. That's right. We got Arizona State plus 1.5 in the first quarter against Baylor. I just told you a minute ago I liked Arizona State in the points in the game and the money line. Here, I like it in the first quarter at plus 1.5. I like Wyoming plus 3.5 in the first quarter at Colorado. Wyoming's only given up 3 points all year in the first quarter, and they have played Utah. That's right, Utah scored 3 on them, but the Cowboys, other than that, have held everybody scoreless in the first quarter, and Colorado doesn't really have a quarterback per se. I heard they're starting the kid to transfer from Liberty. Anyways, we don't know what they're going to do. I like Cal minus 6.5 in the first half against San Diego State. If you haven't seen Sagapalute, this kid is on dynamite, 6'3", 225-pound freshman from Hawaii. I just absolutely love what Cal. I'm going to make a major prediction on a short here tomorrow, today, the day I'm releasing this video about Cal. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be one of the craziest things you thought you'd never hear, but it's about to be true. I'm telling you, folks. And the last thing to round out this parlay is I like Michigan State 6.5 against USC in the first quarter. That's right. Michigan State has given up 3 points this year in the first quarter, and that was actually to Youngstown State last year. Go Penguins. And But last year, Michigan State played 3 top 10 teams. That's right. They played Ohio State, they played Oregon, and they played Indiana. All 3 top 10 teams. They gave 3 to Ohio State, 7 to Oregon, 0 to Indiana in the first quarter. So I like them to hang close in the first quarter against USC before that game gets a little out of control. So I'm going to take the 6.5 in Michigan State. I'm going to put this thing together. It's like a plus 982, I think, is the total package on this parlay. So nice parlay. Win almost 10 times your money here. So again, Arizona State plus 1.5 in the first quarter. Wyoming plus 3.5 in the first quarter. Cal minus 6.5 in the first half. And Michigan State plus 6.5 in the first quarter at USC. All right. Those are the big plays that I already made that we are looking at, and some of those are the big games. So let's get into these big games here. We're going to start with Texas Tech at Utah. Utah's given 2.5 points. We got an over-under at 57.5. And folks, I don't think I'm ducking it up on this play right here yet. I haven't decided. I don't know what the hell to think here of this game. I don't think Utah can win this game if they want to get into a scoring match with Texas Tech. Not that Utah can't score, but I'm just saying I don't think this is going to be, I don't feel like this is going to be your typical Big 12 game of each team getting to 50 points. I feel like Utah's defense is better than that. We'll see what Texas Tech's offense looks like. If I was going to play this game, I'd probably go ahead and take Utah in the money line and maybe give the 2.5 points. And I feel like this is an over 60-point game, but I feel like they're tricking us into it. So I'd probably say the under here. I think if Utah's going to win this game, it's going to be under 57.5 points. So I'm going to go ahead and say, not that I've put the ducats on this yet, but I'm just telling you, I'm going to take Utah, the money line, and the minus 2.5, and the under at 57.5. All right. Let's move over to Texas and look at the SMU TCU game. That's right. We got SMU Mustangs traveling to the Horned Frogs. And the Horned Frogs are given 6.5 here at home. And it's a 64.5 over-under. I really like TCU's defense to show up in this game and hold SMU back. We saw that game a couple weeks ago with SMU and Baylor. That thing became a shootout, 80-some points. I just feel like TCU's going to have a stronger defense than Baylor in this game. They're going to be playing at home. Baylor was on the road. I just feel like, I don't know if 6.5 might be too many, though. I think TCU for sure on the money line, if you want to play that. I don't know. It's really close, folks. I feel like 6.5 is baiting you here. I think this thing is real close on the 6 number. 64.5 too. I really feel like it's a little high because TCU's defense is going to be on top, on par here this week. So I'm going to say the TCU in the money line and just under the under, like a half a point under, 64, 63 points. I think it's just going to be slightly under. All right, I've already told you in my other video, I took Nebraska and the 2.5 here against Michigan, and the over-under on this is 45.5. I think Nebraska is going to win this game straight up, so I'm going to go ahead and take the 2.5 points on that. I feel like Michigan, this is a must-have game for Nebraska, in my opinion. This is just me talking, dumbass Todd talks college football here, telling you. I just feel like this is a must-win for Nebraska, but it's not as big a must-win for Michigan because I still don't believe Michigan's a playoff team as we stand with the way that they've looked. But I think Nebraska, this is a game that could propel them into that playoff spot. So with that being said, I really am high on Nebraska winning this football game, getting to 2.5 at home, the over-under at 45.5. Again, I do believe this is going to be a lower scoring football game between these two teams. I don't know if it's going to be 45.5 low. I'd probably say just the over here a little bit, 47 to 49 points in this football game. So I'm going to stay away from that. I'm going to take Nebraska in the 2.5 at home and maybe sprinkle a little on the money line, obviously, see if I get a little boost there. All right, let's roll into Oklahoma. And we have Auburn rolling into Oklahoma. What a great, great game. We got Jackson Arnold heading home back to Oklahoma. And we've got John Mateer now on the sidelines at Oklahoma, my favorite Heisman Trophy pick. I've been saying that since the beginning of the season, before we played a game. Oklahoma quarterbacks that do well win the Heisman Trophy. So I really like Oklahoma here. Obviously on the money line, I like Oklahoma to win this football game. We got it -6.5. Auburn, I don't know if they can keep this thing close enough to stay in the 6.5 long enough in this game. I think Oklahoma's defense is top tier. Personally, I think it's Ohio State and Oklahoma and Ohio State right now in defense setup, and that could change this weekend, obviously, with Oklahoma playing Auburn. Oklahoma could jump up there if they could shut Auburn down and Jackson Arnold. I just feel like Oklahoma is going to be too powerful on the defensive side for Auburn to win this game. I'm going to go Oklahoma on the money line. I'm going to go ahead and give the 6.5 here because I do think John Mateer, I think they'll score late to keep this game, make it a 14, 13-point game. I think it's going to be a 47.5. I think it's right pegged on. I think this is going to go just slightly over because I think that last touchdown will put Oklahoma up like 35-21, something in that range, which will make this game over. Is that over 35-21? No, I mean, yeah, that's over. So I think Oklahoma and Auburn, I'm going to go Oklahoma the money line, -6.5, and over the 47.5 here. All right, let's move over to Illinois and Indiana. I've already made this pick. I like Illinois in the 5.5 on the road. I like Illinois on the money line. As you saw in my other parlay, I parlayed that on the Road Warriors parlay. And I like this game to stay just under the 52.5. I think if Illinois is going to win this game, this name's going to need to be in the middle 20s here for both teams. Indiana hasn't played a team like Illinois yet. Illinois has been on the road already. They went to Duke. Not saying that that's a very tough environment, but it's a system. It's doing the system. It's getting up. It's getting on the road. It's getting up the next day out of a hotel. It's doing the whole system that Illinois already got through their system with that road trip to Duke. So I really like Illinois here in this. I like Luke Altmaier and the boys to hold Indiana back. Indiana's been throwing up a lot of points against a lot of lesser competition than Indiana. But I don't think this is going to be a game where they're going to be able to do that thing. So they're going to have to play a tight game, and I think Illinois is going to win this thing. And I'm going to take the 5.5 because I don't think it's going to be a blowout. All right, the next game, Arizona State at Baylor, -2.5 for Baylor. I've already told you earlier, I like Arizona State to win. I like Arizona State in the points. I like Arizona State in the 1.5 in the first quarter. I like Arizona State all around this game. The only thing I'm wondering is exactly at 59.5, I'm feeling like this is just slightly over that. I feel like it's going to be like a 34-31, 39-34, something in that vicinity kind of game. So I'm kind of liking the over here. I haven't made a bet on that, but I think that is going to be a strong play if you want to go the over on that. And again, it's your duck. It's not mine here. All right, big game of the night in that evening slot is the Florida Gators at the Miami Hurricanes. The Miami Hurricanes are given 7.5. We got an over-under at 51.5. Now, some thoughts on this here. I'm thinking, I watched Florida last week play LSU. I watched them turn the ball over 5 times in damn near a row. Anyways, but what I liked about that game was Florida's defense, man. Can you think about this? You go out, you turn the ball over 5 times offensively, but yet you only give the other team 22 minutes of total possession. LSU only had one 75-yard, 7-play drive in that game. They got a field goal at the end of the half on a turnover that they were able to move 10 yards or something like that, kick a field goal to get 3 points there. They mustered a pick 6 to get another 7. They really didn't move the ball at all against this Florida defense. Now, with that being said, I think Miami's offense is way better than LSU's offense today as it stands, and we have a little bit more. I mean, look, they scored points against Notre Dame. And they clearly scored a lot of points last week against USF in a game that, quite frankly, I thought they could fall apart a little bit in because of the weather delay. And then they got back to playing and had the weather delay and the delay. So I felt like, Miami was strong enough to muster through all of that and still put a whooping on. Like, it never was even in doubt where Miami was against USF. So I really, really like the way Florida's defense played last week, and thought to myself, if I was thinking about this game deeply, could Florida's defense shut down Miami and keep this thing under 51.5? And, a 24-21 game, somewhere in that range, just both teams at maybe 26 to, 19, something. I'm really torn on it, because I really feel like in what I thought LSU's offense was good, which makes me think that Florida's defense is really good. But maybe it's LSU's offense that just sucks, and Florida's defense isn't that great, and Miami's not going to have any problem with them. I don't know where to go here, so I'm really conflicted here with what to do. I really think Miami's going to win the football game. I think that. That's what I do think, because they're playing at home. I do think under 51.5. I think that's really reasonable. These games are generally, a tussle. I just don't know about the 7.5. I do feel like DJ Lagway can't have another game like he had last week. Can he? Could he? Maybe he could. I don't know. We'll see. But that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to stay off the points here. Either way, because I feel like if I take the points, Florida's going to turn around and suck an egg. If I give the points, Miami will, play a tussle here. I'm just going to stay away from that. I'm going to take Miami, and I'm going to take the under 51.5. That's what I just made up my mind. All right, I threw this game in late because I just heard Lenora Sellers is back. That's what they said, so extra if you haven't heard the news. At least that's what I read, the report. So I was looking at this game, and I feel like if you could have jumped on it at 9.5, now all of a sudden South Carolina getting 9.5 looks interesting. I don't know if that line's moved. It did not move as of 15, 20 minutes ago of recording this. So I'm really thinking South Carolina plus the 9.5, if you can still get it with the news that Lenoris is back. I don't know that they were counting that into this line. I feel like they kind of were. I like Missouri, what they're doing with the transfer from Penn State at quarterback, but they really don't have a lot of, what did we see out of them up to date so far? We do know that South Carolina's defense, I think, is decent. They did give 31 points up to to Vanderbilt last week, but maybe they suck too, because now who knows? They beat Virginia Tech, who doesn't look good, looks terrible, looks so bad they fired their coach. So I think South Carolina plus 9.5 is probably a good play in this SEC. I think this is a Saturday night game, maybe. Honestly, I just looked at it for a second because I wasn't even going to pick it because Sellers was out, I thought. So, all right, and then I'm going to throw in this little sneaky pick here. I don't know where I'm going to go with this exactly, but I've been looking at it. It's Temple 23.5 at Georgia Tech. So we had Temple last week. I thought Temple could play tough in the first quarter against Oklahoma, and I took the points in the first quarter, and that was a bad mistake because Oklahoma just jumped on them early and it wasn't close. But Temple's not as bad a football team as what Oklahoma made them look last week. We have Georgia Tech coming off maybe the biggest win. That last year's Georgia game would have been the biggest win if they could have kept that thing and won that thing in overtime. But this is Georgia Tech's probably biggest win in a long time in their program, and I love what the Ramblin' Wreck is doing here, and then looking at their schedule, they got a real shot to win this thing out, and I'm not saying Temple's going to beat them by any means here. I'm just saying I'm wondering if Georgia Tech is going to come off of last week's game, playing Temple, seeing what Oklahoma did to Temple, come into this game and underestimate slightly, and maybe only win this game by 21 points, which would make you a winner at plus 23.5. So I'm keeping an eye on it. I really like that as a sneaky little pick here coming in. Temple plus 23.5 against Georgia Tech. It just seems like Georgia Tech every team, it's just human nature, folks. You have your biggest win, you storm the stadium, you make a 55-yarder, you do all the things that you dream of doing, and then the next week against a team like Temple, who got buried by Oklahoma, you end up falling a little short of what you were projected to win by. And I think that's what could happen here. So I really like this sneaky pick of Temple plus 23.5. Okay, folks. There is our weekly predictor show for week 4 of the college football season. If you want to use these picks, just don't come looking for me. If you don't make them, I'm only giving you what I think, not what I know, because who the hell knows what we know when it comes to college football. But I think these are some solid pickups. Again, we went 8-7 last week in the individual picks, 0-3 in the parlays, but we're going to make it back, and we're not going to see the injuries or the holding calls that weren't called, and all the other things that went on last week that blew up our parlay. So see you soon. Remember, gather around in ALTT.